Hello everybody, RegiTime here. Sorry there's been no videos for almost a week. It's got nothing to do with Sky's absurd decision to do anything to prevent me from using their software. It's just been a slow poker week. I was working long hours or longish hours Monday, Tuesday. My sleep pattern was kind of all over the shop. And I just was too tired to play when I got home from work, so I didn't play at all Monday or Tuesday. They're typically bad days to grind anyway, probably the worst 2 days of the week, so there's no great loss there. I played a little bit on Wednesday, not very much, and then we had a young man come and stay with us for some respite care overnight Thursday and Friday, was it Wednesday and Thursday? Can't remember when it was, but again I couldn't play much poker. He's a very capable young man. He doesn't need a great deal of support, but at the same time I was just doing stuff with him and not playing poker very much. So we kind of, this week I've only put, the only meaningful session I put in was a Friday, and 2 sessions on Friday. I think it was one early in the evening and then one later on, kind of going into Saturday morning, and that's where these hands have come from. There's 3 hands at the same table involving the same players, and then there's 1 hand at the end. There's only 4 hands to look at. 1 hand at the end that's against well, should we say creative regular. I mean, that would be a pleasant way of putting it. He seems like a nice guy. I'm not gonna do anything. Not gonna say his name, not gonna be unpleasant about him, but yeah, it's an aggressive regular that probably isn't very good. But we'll get to that hand eventually. So there's only 4 hands to look at, but it's nothing to do with anything that's been going on. It's just been a product of how my life sometimes works, and we just haven't had much time for the grind this week, which is a shame because it's now the 30th, Monday the 30th. I'm recording this in the morning. I haven't played anything yet on Monday, so we've got effectively like 2 days play to go this month. I've only managed to put 50 odd hours in so far. But we have made nearly £800, so it's been a really good month. Nothing to complain about. Really dropped off the pace this last week. I think we could have made a grand if we'd kept up the pace, but that's super unlikely now. But still, been a fantastic month. I've overachieved on the financial goal that I set. Maybe I might underachieve on the hours played. I can't remember what I set now. Can't remember. Oh, it's at 80 hours, so I've massively underachieved on the hours, but overachieved on my hourly rate. So it's all good. Please don't forget to like, by the way, if you've made it through this fucking very long preamble. Please don't forget to hit the like button, the share button, and all of those things, and I'd be most grateful. So we have this first hand here. I haven't named any of the play. Oh, it's a half whale here. This is sorry, I misled you at the start. This is from a different table, and the next 2 hands come from the same table. This is a different whale to the one we're going to be playing against the Maniac earlier. This guy was somebody I have tagged blue on Sky, which typically means they play way too loose. It could mean lots of different things: too loose, too aggressive; too loose, too passive. It could mean a lot of things, but basically it means someone who I estimate to have a VPIP of like over 75, something like that. So this guy was like really wide, really loose. We have the 6s. Hopefully the poker hand replay will behave itself today and we'll get through all these hands very smoothly. He isolates a limper. We call out of the small blind, and the limper comes along too. And we get a pretty good flop. Standard check though to, well, we don't want to be leading out very often anyways, but yeah, it's standard check call here. Never a check raise, I don't think. Could be, but I don't think so. I mean, if we check raise here and we get repopped by the whale, who can have like a super wide range, you can have tons of worse hands, but it puts us in a tough spot. So I think it's just going to be a check call and then play some turns. He pots it. We call. I remember that I wasn't loving facing the pot size bet because he can absolutely have some better hands here. He can have all over pairs. Sets probably, but unlikely. Straights maybe, but unlikely, especially since we have such good blockers to the straight. But his range is wide, and he can have some like random air too. I don't know a huge amount about the player. He didn't, none of my notes struck me to say that he was particularly passive or aggressive. He was just blue tagged with like I think 1 note on how he'd played a particular hand that wasn't really relevant to this spot. So I didn't know a ton about him, but I mean, against a whale we have second pair to the board, and a good shot. So we're not going anywhere just yet. So we did call, and the replayer did freeze. Let's just quickly refresh it and get to the turn. So the turn's a 4 of diamonds. We check again. Our opponent bets just £4.50 this time, and this is where I thought I'd picked up on a, well, not picked up on, but I thought I'd noticed a like kind of fish type sizing tell. Usually when fish like the hand on a flop and then like it less on turns, or when they bet flops and they bet less on turns as in terms of a percentage of the pot, I typically associate that with like a relatively weak hand, weak range. So when I saw this £4.50, I thought, well, maybe I'm ahead now, you know, there's a reasonable chance he might just be have like random overcards, like a weakish draw. I wasn't sure, to be honest, but I saw the size and I thought, you know what, we could well be good here. And if we're not good, we still have our like hopefully 6 outs to draw upon, which isn't really very much, but if you think you're good a lot of the time anyway, so if you think you've just got like a really good amount of like showdown value, and then you have like an additional draw to a stronger hand, we certainly can't fall when we think we've got a sizing tell. And we don't know if it's just player specific sizing tell because I didn't know enough about him, but usually or typically if you're playing and you see players bet a smaller amount, especially bad players, not necessarily good players, but especially players you think might be bad, they're the ones that are usually going to have their little sizing tells here and there. I mean, I know several players who play in like online on Sky, and I've got a very good friend, possibly my very best friend in the whole world. I play poker with him. He's not a good poker player, and he typically displays his tell time and again. On the flop, it's hard to see where he's at with his sizing, but a turn, if his turn sizing isn't that much of an increase on his flop sizing, it's typically indicative that he doesn't love his hand that much. And sometimes he's still value betting, but it's just not a very strong hand. A lot of the time he's just continuing with the bluff, but doesn't really want to like commit a lot of chips to it. So that's the situation I thought we're in here. Maybe it's like a slightly better value hand that he's getting scared with, or maybe it's just a bluff that he just doesn't want to commit to sizing wise. So I thought we had like a really easy call here, and we did call. And we do river the straight, and this is where it gets interesting. It's if we think our opponent's bluffing, well then, you know, it's the easiest check in the history of the world, and then it's just a matter of, you know, if we check and he bets, say, I don't know, £6 or £7, do we stuff it all in, or do we just call thinking we probably aren't going to get called by worse hands very often? So that was what I was going through. Do we check, and if we check, do we just call, do we raise, or do we just lead out now to make sure we can't check back with like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, pocket 8s, all those. I think he absolutely will most of the time. I mean, if he's just got a hand like pocket 8s or 9s, 10s, that type of thing, maybe even jacks. I mean, he should probably be checking out all his overpairs, but I think in the fish's mind here, pocket aces is a lot stronger than pocket 8s, even though they're effectively the same thing. Maybe not pocket 8s exactly, because that contains some blockers, but pocket 9s, pocket 10s, that type of thing. I think that in the fish's eyes, pocket 9s is significantly weaker than pocket aces here, and it probably isn't that much weaker in terms of this board, but I think fish see it that way. So I was kind of thinking, you know, if he's got an overpair, big overpair, he's probably still going to bet. If he's got a medium pair, maybe he bets, maybe he doesn't. Should we just bet to make sure that we get value from all those things? But if we do bet, do we prevent him from bluffing, like miss flush draws, just 2 high cards, some random stuff? Because this might be the sort of hand where the fish just goes nuts and bluffs on the river because they just don't have anything, and there's 4 to a straight on the board, and he might just think we don't have anything. So I had a lot of things going through my mind. The sky timer didn't help, and in the end I kind of rushed into a decision of check. And we're not going to get to see his hand here because I fucked up when I was plumbing the hand in, but he checked back aces, and I kind of thought, you know, should we have bet there, shouldn't we? And I think maybe if I was playing and we had a time bank and we could have just used that little bit of extra time, maybe I would have landed on bet to make sure he like pays off with his overpairs. But I didn't. I was playing, I think, another table going. Whether it was attracting my attention or not, I can't remember. But I think the only interesting part of this hand really is the river decision. Should we bet? Should we check call? Should we check raise? And yeah, maybe I should just have, against a regular or against like a more passive type player, someone who's maybe a little bit scared, you know, gets months on the bed syndrome. I think we have to bet this river because they're just going to check back so many hands that we get value from. I think even sets check back here with someone who's trying to play even reasonable poker. So I think versus the better player, I think a river lead would have been better. But against a whale, I kind of thought maybe they just still bet the pairs. He didn't, and we maybe won the minimum, but never mind. We also didn't just win the minimum, we stuck out as well. But you know, that's going to happen from time to time, and no, it is what it is. We had a decision point, one key decision in the hand, and we didn't make the right one. But you know, that's poker sometimes, isn't it? All you can do is learn from it and think, why didn't I make the right one? And I think in this instance, it was mostly not having enough time to think properly, rather than any like fundamental flaws in my game versus like some of the biggest whales. So we move on to the next hand now. You have a queen and a 10 offsuit. Not a typical hand you'll see here on the channel, but let's see what happens. We have a maniac, and this guy was a true maniac. You actually see in the next hand a significant adjustment I made. This guy was just literally raising every single pot. His VPIP must have been very close to 100, if not 100. He was raising every pot. If it was raising in front of him, he was 3-betting to various sizes. He was just an absolute bona fide nutter. So yeah, we had him min raising. We had an unknown fish in the cutoff, who just called, and we made up the call from the big blind with queen 10 off, which isn't a particularly attractive hand, but again, somebody with like 100% range and somebody who can't 3-bet him, yeah, I would imagine, or would hope that I would have enough skill advantage post flop to offset like to offset my positional disadvantage and, you know, any range advantage he may have. Although I'm not sure he does have a range advantage, you know, because he's just playing that many hands. But yeah, it's not ideal out of position, but I think we've got enough edge against this guy to make it like a super clear defend. Never a 3-bet, but like always a defend. So anyway, we flop top pair on a really dry board, and we're kind of comfortable with the situation at the moment. So we check. Maniac checks, and this is something important that leads into the next hand, in that post flop, if he had like what he considered to be some kind of showdown value, like for example, it turned out, I didn't know this at the time with him, but I did know it at the point of the next hand. If he had something that he might consider showdown value, he didn't bet. He was like checking most of the time. If he had like top pair or air, he would bet. And he had kind of a size intel too. He would bet his middle in strength hands, middle in sizes, and then it would be like super polarized with his big bets, and more weighted towards just complete air balls than good hands, because it's hard to make good hands when you play as many hands as he does. But anyway, he checks. The unknown fish pots it. We call. Maniac folds, so it's not the ideal situation. 6 of diamonds on the turn doesn't really change anything. I mean, 4-3 gets there, 5-6 gets there, but it doesn't change too much. We check again. Unknown fish pots it again, and now I'm starting to think, this is getting just a little bit dicey, but I'm not that into folding top pair good kicker to fish. Not for 2 streets anyway, maybe a 3rd barrel. You know, if it ran off like, I don't know, the king of spades on the river, he triple barreled, and maybe then we'll just give him like, right, fine, you've got a set or 2 pair or something, and maybe lay it down. But you know, we talked about in previous videos that I don't really do many hero folds to fish. This isn't necessarily a hero fold, but I'm just not into making like folding top pair to fish very often, because you just have so many other weird and wonderful stuff in the range. If this was against a regular, I would be strongly considering folding now, and certainly folding on most rivers, but it's not. It's against a fish, and fish do all kinds of weird shit. So yep, I think we have a pretty mandatory call there. And then the 4 rolls off on the river. We check, and now I'm thinking, well, he doesn't have much 3x here. Does deuce 3 really call pre? 4-3, suited maybe, I guess. 5-3, 6-3. You know, there's some 3, well, very few 3s in his range. I don't think he has 8-7 very often. Maybe he just stabs the flop with 8-7 and barrels off when he hits a pair on the turn. Who knows? But yeah, I wasn't too worried about him having a straight here. So I just thought, well, we'll just check here. Probably goes check a lot if he can have us beat with stuff like pocket jacks, maybe pocket kings, ace 10, stuff like that. So there's some hands that have us beat, but I don't expect him to bet most of them. You know, I think if he bets this river, he's gonna somehow have a 3 or just like a pretty big bluff most of the time. That was my line of thinking. He checks. We check. He disappoints us by like betting the full pot, and he's like super polarized here. You know, he's either got. I mean, I don't even think people bet sets. This on 4 straight boards. I don't see fish betting sets this way. They certainly aren't betting over pairs this way with like any kind of frequency or sets. Maybe they bet a little bit smaller with a set. Usually it's going, oh, fuck's sake, 4-2 a straight out there, even though I should never have any 3x either. Neither of us should have much 3x here. If anyone's got 3x, it's going to be more likely to be me than him. I'm going to have more 4-3, more 5-3 than he's going to have for sure. So if we are talking about who's got the most 3x in the range, it's going to be me. Although I very much doubt that guy's thinking that way. And I just in this huge bet, and I thought, well, I'm ruling out over pairs, I'm ruling out like better 10s. So just like, it's maybe a set. And a lot of the time, maybe just some complete random fucking airball that he set off firing with and never knew when to stop. So I did the tank right down on this one, didn't like it at all, but decided to station it up. So we called, and yeah. He showed us the king 10, which I'll be honest with you, it's not often that like I have an eye roll or a jaw drop when I play these days. Nothing much surprises me. But this one did. I was like, wow, you know, this guy's just like potted 3 streets, flop, get it, turn, I get it, river. Wow, just pots it again. I didn't know if it was good play or fucking crazy play. But I did get a fucking good note that we can you know, we can certainly, just like if we flop big hands against him, we don't have to worry about him like slowing down with like weaker value hands, because he's demonstrating here he's not doing it. I don't know what he's doing on the river. I have no idea if it's a fucking bluff. Surely it can't be a value bet. I just don't know. I have no idea what his motivation for potting it was, but by fuck it worked for him. And fair play. We're going to lose a biggish pot. I'm going to much rather lose it to a recreational player than I am to some fucking tedious regular. So there we go. That was that hand. Going to the ace 3 suited. We start here under the gun. The maniac is here, and I think this was the same passive fish here, but I don't remember, so I didn't. So I didn't put him in there. I think it probably was though, because it wasn't like a huge amount of time afterwards. And I've got the maniac stack size wrong. By now the maniac had a stack of like 70 odd quid, so I'm sorry the stack size is wrong. So it's gonna look just the effective stack is 38 here, not 30. Don't know why I didn't put his stack size right, but I didn't. So bear that in mind, that he's like easily got us covered here. We limp under the gun, and I never do or rarely do this. But as I said, this guy was like raising every single hand. If he wasn't there, if someone raised before him, he was 3-betting every hand. So I knew I wasn't going to see like if I raised here, I just know that I'm gonna have to deal with the 3-bet. And I just kind of wanted to keep the pot a little bit smaller with him. If you know someone's going to raise for you and you know they're not going to fold to your raise, and you're pretty sure they're going to 3-bet you, then there's some hands that I think just play much better as a limp. I think suited aces, some suited connectors, certainly small pocket pairs that you're not willing to get in pre. I think they all you start popping into a limping range, and also if I'd had like 2 aces or 2 kings here, I think I trapped him in a spot later after this it wasn't interesting enough to make a video of, where I think I trapped him with I think it was pocket jacks or something, and we managed to get 2 streets post flop before he folded, something like that. Anyway, can't remember, but yeah, I just basically started having limp everything, and you know, if he was in the pot to act behind me, I was just limping every hand and just letting things develop from there. It's unusual, but I think, you know, it's just an adjustment that I made at the time, and I think if you are in a similar situation, it's a reasonable adjustment to make. I know we get the whole never limp, never limp, never limp, never limp. That is generally good advice, but in situations such as this, I think limping's a far superior play, and just take it from there. What was happening a lot as well, I think this play was a regular in the big blind, Oh, I've got the passive fish here. I was looking at the wrong person. Yeah, this player was a regular in the big blind. He'd been like 3-betting him pretty wide. He'd been squeezing a lot. And if it goes like limp, raise like he's bound to do, call, and this guy squeezes, then whatever. If we open, he 3-bets, and this guy puts a cold 4-bet in pretty wide, which he would be absolutely right to do. Again, we're just going to be wasting money pre-flop, so I like to take like a pretty cautious route pre-flop, just to try and guarantee myself to at least see a flop, unless it went absolutely crazy behind. If it did, then big deal, we've lost 30 pence, it's not the end of the world. So the Maniac did not disappoint, he raised. Button calls, and I think I've messed this stand up as well, because I think this guy called, so the pot isn't going to be quite accurate in terms of sizing, because I'm pretty sure the regular called too. Anyways, never mind. We called. We flopped the nut flush draw. Check to the Maniac, who continues for £2.85. And if you remember what we said in the previous hand, he rarely bet. If he had like a 7 here, for example, I don't think he would bet. If he had a deuce, I don't think he would bet. I think he would bet with a jack, he would bet with overpairs, he would bet with worse draws, he would bet with his complete air. And I mean, he could have literally anything here. He could just have like 5 high, like 5-3 or something like that. I mean, the guy was just absolutely off his rocker. So I was thinking, like, do we raise now, or if we think he's bluffing, do we allow a card to come off, then check raise the turn? And they were the two options going right through my head. At this point, I was pretty sure that he didn't have like a really strong hand, like well, not really strong. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, but I thought he had a ton of air in his range. And if he was bluffing this flop, I knew he was going to barrel the turn. I'd seen him like bet fold a pretty large amount of the time. We don't quite have enough showdown value here to just like check call him down for 3 streets, because he might just fucking bet a deuce 3 times, who knows. But yeah, I was just kind of thinking, when do I put my check raise in? Do I do it now, or do I let him bomb the turn and then go for it? Because if you remember, we said at the start of the hand he covered us, so there's 36 effective, not 25 effective here. So I was deciding what to do. Do I just like say fuck you, raise now, get it in while I like my equity, or do I take the braver route, check call the flop, and then just like hope to improve on the turn, and if we don't improve, then consider check raising? I elected to call. Turn pairs the board. Like I said, I don't think he bets a 7 or a deuce on the flop. Maybe he bets his deuces but not his 7s, can't be certain. But I thought the deuce was kind of a break, and you know, if he was bluffing on the flop, then he hasn't improved on the turn very often unless he's bluffing with the deuce. We check. Oh man, pretty much pots it. I think there was like 11.40 in the pot here, and he actually bet something like £10.20. I tried to replicate it because I forgot to put this dude's call in pre, so it's slightly bigger than this, but not much. So now it's just a matter of, we can't call anymore. So it's like, do we stick to the plan and just jam, or do we kind of lose our nerve and fold? And this is where I put this hand in, not necessarily because I made a certain play and it worked. If anyone, we might as well play it through. I did jam and our opponent did fold, but that isn't why I'm showing the hand. It's to encourage you, if you've got like a plan and a reason for doing something, and then your opponent makes a really big bet, you can't lose your nervous. And so many people who were like, oh, I was going to check raise the turn, but then he bet really big, and I thought, oh, he's never folding when he bets that size. And they ball out, and they just like they abort their original plan. I think lots and lots of players do that. They have a plan on the flop because it's like, it's not real yet. The guy hasn't just bombed 10 quid into you, and you still don't have anything on the flop. You're just like, oh cool, check raise, check call flop, check raise turn. And I guess people are hoping they just bet like a smaller amount so they can convince themselves that the guy isn't that strong, or they have more fold equity. But no, I mean, if your plan is check call flop, check raise turn because you think an opponent's got an awful lot of air in his range, or some maybe really weak value hands that can't continue, then you just got to go with your plan. And if you do it and he snaps you off with like 10 jack here, which this guy absolutely would, he was never folding a jack here. That wasn't the plan. The plan wasn't to get him to fold a jack. It was maybe to make him fold a slightly better hand sometimes, like maybe some small pocket pairs that maybe he's just blasting away with, maybe some better ace highs, lots of worse hands too that maybe have just like 12-15% equity against us, who knows what. But the plan was just obviously make him fold. If he doesn't, then so long as we're not drawing dead, you know, we quite like our chances of either getting the fold or improving on the river. You know, we've probably got, if we do get called and we're not drawing dead, you would hope that you had maybe minimum of 12 outs on the river. Maybe more if you... No, couldn't be more than 12 really, could it? But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. The point of putting this hand up was, don't abort your plans. Unless something significant happens, do not abort your plans. You know, if you think the guy's got loads of air, then fold. If you think the guy's super strong and you're making a call on the flop just hoping that maybe your opponent slows down on the turn and then they don't, then make the tight fold. Just plan ahead. This is a good example of just planning ahead in a hand and not taking each street as it comes, but take the street you're on and then think of the next street, and possibly the next street too. A key skill in poker is having the ability to think more than one move ahead, a bit like a pool player. When you're like, right, I've got 4 balls left, I've got 1 ball hemmed up on the cushion, I'm going to need to use one of these 2 pots to try and move that ball so I can like clear the frame up. It's very much like that in poker. You know, if you're just always just thinking one street at a time and not pre-planning into like what turns are good for me, what turns are bad for me. I plan to check raise, but I'm not check raising on this card. For example, if I turned a flush here, the check raise plan would have been abandoned because I'm going to want to keep checking to my opponent who I think's got a lot of air in his range. So only change your plans if something changes significantly. If your plan is to like check raise bluff turns and a brick comes, then check raise bluff turns. If your plan is to check raise bluff turns but then you make your hand, then check call, because you think the only reason you were check raising is because you think your opponent's range is weak. So therefore if you make the nuts on the turn, then check raising when you think your opponent's weak is kind of a bonkersly rubbish thing to do. So yeah, this was more about, you know, think early in hands, make plans early in hands, make decisions and stick to them unless something happens to make you want to change. So yeah, I hope that hand's been quite useful. Move on to the last hand, and this is just more an example of like just how bad some regs are. I mean, this guy who's, and as I said, I'm not going to name him, but he'll be well known to Sky regulars. He's a pretty bad aggressive regular. He goes through huge swings. He fucking adores running bluffs. I think he adores running bluffs more than anyone I've ever met, you know, in terms of like regulars. And yeah, he's tough to play against. I find him tough to play against anyway. But he has big mistakes in him that sometimes pop up, and this was one of them. So see, this guy's going to be irrelevant. He limps. We isolate, of course, with our beautiful king queen suited. Bad aggressive regular calls. Under the gun calls, and we flop a good shot with the backdoor flush draw. Checks round to us, and I think that checking back's not too unreasonable here. I don't quite often. I'll check back my air on ace-high flops because we're against 2 players. It's just no one's going to fold an ace ever. I don't think it's that likely a jack's going to fold for 1 bet either. So usually we just check back here, but we do have a gut shot to the nuts. We have 2 overcards to the jack and a backdoor flush draw. So I elect to make a pretty small bet. Regular calls. The passive fish guy folds. Turn is a complete brick. I check. He checks. I check back. At this stage, he's not folding an ace. Maybe he folds a jack. And then, you know, maybe if we don't bet here, he gets to lead his jacks on rivers, and you know, we just fold or what have you. But at this point, I'd not given up because there's always like some hope that we can just river the nuts or what have you. But I was kind of done with it. I'm not that into like double or triple barrel bluffing on ace high boards because you just get looked at way too often by top pair. So it's not really my thing. If this guy's got like an ace 5 suited, ace 10, something like that, he's not folding it. If I fire 3 streets, he's just going to go check call, check call, check call. So yeah, continuing bluffing on ace high boards, especially with brick turns, is not a good strategy, particularly in games where players tend to be sticky. Then check back, then fortunately we river the absolute coconuts, which is never unpleasant. Our opponent checks again. I don't think he's got much at this point. I think the best he's got here is like a jack. Anyway, if we're super lucky, he's got jack 10, and he's like going for a check call, maybe even a small check raise. Who knows? I don't think he's got much else. If he's got any like set of sevens, that's all he can really have is a set of sevens. I think he probably check raised his flop. I just don't think he's got very much. So we have to bet small and just hope he finds a call with who knows what. You know, maybe he's got a weak ace. Although I think he'd bet most of them on the river. But I mean, if he had a really weak ace, he might continue bluff catching with it. He might have some jacks. We do block some of the jacks he can have with, like, obviously Queen Jack, King Jack, and then with the 10 coming, it reduces some of his combinations of Jack 10. But he can also have stuff like Jack 9 suited. He loves small suited connectors too. That might be more of a clue to who he is. Yeah, I just hope he's got something he can call with. So we bet the 180. He surprises me by raising. Oh, cool. We've got the nuts and we've been raised. That's pretty sweet. And obviously we have no alternative here but to jam. But it's like, what is he really going to call with? Do we jam? Do we just click it back? You know, if he's rivered a set of 10s, for example, then he's probably going broke here. If we jam, he just calls, and that's that pretty much. If he's somehow like slow played a set of 7s or something, or a set of jacks, which seems incredibly unlikely because he almost certainly 3-bets them pre, but occasionally he can have them, I guess. He's never folding them, you know, and if we're really, really lucky, he'll have the 8-9. And we can just get to stack him. So in the end I just thought, well, it's a river check raise. I typically associate river check raise with just like nutted types of hands, not necessarily always the nuts, but nutted stuff. So I'm thinking, right, well, he might call with, well, he's going to call with sets. He's certainly called it with like the 8-9, and maybe, just maybe, he calls with like ace 10 or ace jack that he hasn't 3-bet to. Although I don't think expecting of too much of that, but I just think jam's the clear and obvious best line, which is what I did. And he tanked and finally called, and he just had 10-9 offsuit, which I thought was a bit bonkers, to be honest with you. I'm not sure what he can put me on there to call with a 10. And maybe just putting me on like a complete airball that's like kind of reacted to his check raise or whatever. Maybe he's leveled himself into thinking that I've just gone for like a complete fucking total outer space bluff. If he does think that, then he doesn't know me very well, because I haven't taken that line for so long, and every time I've taken it in the past, it's because I've been tilted. It's never been strategic. It's always just been fuck you and just getting the jam in. So this guy clearly doesn't know me very well if he thinks that I'm jamming anything there that isn't a straight. 8-9's tough. Maybe I just call with 8-9, but when I jam, it's literally always the nuts, and never anything less. Possibly, no, because I don't have pocket aces or pocket jacks because I barrel the turn. No, it's just always just the nuts. Yeah, and I'm not really sure. I mean, he probably just found the call because he didn't understand how nitty I am in those spots. I don't know what to say really. Just maybe he was tilted too. Maybe I've no fucking clue what his motivation was. Only he'll know really. But yeah, I thought it was a fun hand to end the video with. So there we go. I'm not sure when we're going to be back with the next video. Working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, so not sure how much I'm going to play. I'm certainly not going to play a lot like Monday and Tuesday because I never do anyway. So there's every chance there might not be a video again. I've got another video of content what I could make. One is just find the time to do it. There likely won't be a video till later in the week. I'm sorry they're a bit on the ration at the moment, but we will address that when we finally get back on like a slightly better work-life balance and sleep schedule. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you've had a great month, and take care. We'll see you all again soon. Bye bye for now.